From Lands Commissioner at the end of 2020 to police suspect at the start of 2021. We'll show you police searching Wilbert Vallejos' house. And the new year starts with trauma. 2 murders to report tonight and a double fatal accident. Plus, a 14-year-old dies under mysterious circumstances in Benque. We'll talk to his family. Also, vigilante justice captured on camera, but why did an entire neighborhood turn on an elderly and drunk man? You'll hear why. Plus, if we took a holiday, what about 2 holidays? We'll tell you about the PUP's plan to honor national hero George Price. We've got details of these and other stories in our newscast for tonight, Monday, January 4th, 2021. Good evening. With you on news, I'm Indra Cran.
For hydration, when the choice is yours, choose the brand you have always trusted. Crystal Water. Taste you can trust.
You've worked hard your whole life building your future, your family, your business, your home. And when you aren't around to safeguard your most beloved assets, you are at ease because you know they are protected by Rfg Insurance. For over 50 years, Rfg has been making sure business owners get back to work after an accident, and families get back into their homes quickly after a natural disaster. At Rfg, it's you who matters most. Visit us today and learn why it pays to get it right. Rfg Insurance, a Road Group company.
Season greetings, especially to the members and supporters of the Belize Diabetes Association and to all persons living with diabetes and their families. The year 2020 will go down in history. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought many changes and challenges to our lives and health. Sadly, some of us have lost loved ones. I'm so glad that we have managed to come through this year together. Thanks to our partners, the Ministry of Health and Wellness, PAHO, our donors and sponsors, and all who have supported us during this year. As we start the new year, I ask, how can we make the new year a better one? My wish is for you to give yourself the gift of exercise. Why? Because exercise can improve your overall health, your well-being and quality of life. Being overweight and obese are the biggest risk factors for diabetes. Lack of exercise puts us at risk for diabetes and its complications such as blindness, kidney failure, stroke, and lower limbs amputations. Diabetes is the second leading cause of death in Belize. My second wish is for persons living with diabetes to maintain an A1C level below 7%. For persons not living with diabetes, your A1C level should be below 5.7%. Exercising at least 30 minutes a day, 3 days per week can help in reducing your A1C level and delay or prevent the onset of diabetes. Finally, our Diabetes Self-Care Management Program is available for persons who need assistance in managing their diabetes. Our branches throughout the country are open for support and any assistance that you might need. Call us for more information. Together, let's manage diabetes one step at a time. Let's exercise for diabetes. Let's maintain our A1C level below 7%. We must do it. We have to do it for our overall health and well-being.
My fellow Belizeans, very soon 2020 will end and we will welcome the advent of 2021. As a nation, we will look back at 2020 with very mixed feelings, and rightly so. It was a year of unprecedented floods associated with hurricanes Nana, Eta, and Iota, which caused more than $100 million in damage to the Belizean economy. People lost their property, farmers lost their crops and livestock, and public infrastructure was seriously damaged. If this was not enough, we experienced a drought that affected produce and farmers lost again. The COVID-19 pandemic brought our economy to a near halt. Over 236 Belizeans lost their lives to COVID, and more than 10,000 tested positive. About 45,000 persons lost their jobs, and many businesses closed as a result of the measures imposed to fight the virus. COVID-19 dramatically changed the way we work, the way we live, and the world we know. But 2020 was not all bad. Hundreds of Belizeans, along with Cuban collaborators, faced the virus and provided care and control as we implemented measures to curb its spread. Those frontline workers are our heroes. Because of the lockdown and other restrictions, many new micro, small and medium-sized businesses were spawned. This showed our Belizean creativity and an entrepreneurial spirit never before seen. We now have more Belizean businesses. As a result of border closures, we became tourists in our own country in record numbers. We rediscovered the exotic beauty of this our land and the warm hospitality of our people. On 11 November 2020, voters went to the polls, braved the COVID-19 virus, and elected a new PUP government with an overwhelming majority. The electorate endorsed the proposals in our Plan Belize. We received 59% of the popular vote. Without doubt, my government has a strong mandate for change. 2020 was truly a year of change. Change because Belizeans needed to change what was, and because Belizeans want a better future. When we assumed office, we found the treasury empty. The former administration was borrowing $1 million per day to meet expenses. Imagine, they had to borrow every single month to meet payroll. That is bankruptcy, pure and simple. Last August, the Barrow administration failed to pay the US $13 million superbond payment when it became due. Instead, they added this amount to the principal, thereby increasing Belize's foreign debt and deferring the inevitable. The rating agencies downgraded Belize yet again. The important takeaway is that due to mismanagement by the Barrow administration, they could not make the payment, and Belize was financially embarrassed on the world stage. As a result of COVID-19, the Barrow administration borrowed more than $200 million in 2020. The Belizean economy was in recession before COVID-19 gripped us. The situation worsened in the second, third, and fourth quarters, and we estimate that the Belizean economy will shrink by 15% in 2020. The overall fiscal deficit is now in excess of $500 million, or 12% of GDP, and our debt to GDP will increase to 133%. The acceptable standard is 60%. While economists who analyze and keep track of these statistics will be alarmed by these figures, they tell a simple tale to all: Belize broke. We believe that Belizeans should know why things are so bad. We all deserve to know how we reached this deplorable state. Because of UDP mismanagement and corruption, we will all be asked to make major sacrifices in 2021 as we seek to right the ship of state. In good conscience, before we ask Belizeans to do so, those who brought us to this point must be held to account. In the days and weeks ahead, my government will be revealing to the Belizean people the extent of the stealing, criminality, and corruption that was perpetrated by the Barrow administration. Valuable lands are now in the hands of UDP cronies, given away for a pittance. Contracts valued hundreds of millions of dollars were awarded to favorite contractors who failed to pay millions in taxes and fees. State enterprises bought properties at gross overvalues, leaving institutions saddled with millions in debt for no legitimate purpose. Cronies signed contracts in the run-up to the elections and are now demanding massive payouts to be released from contracts. Public officers were required to use government equipment and fuel to build roads on private property and to clear massive ranches. The theft and corruption were widespread and unprecedented. This cannot, should not, and will not be allowed to be forgotten. There will be investigations and, where warranted, criminal charges laid. Where appropriate, civil action for recovery will be brought before the courts. There will be no sacred cows. It is against this miserable reality that we must turn to face 2021. The new year presents us with near insurmountable obstacles. The challenges ahead are difficult. The choices we face are tough. To suppress the spread of COVID-19, we have created the COVID-19 Task Force. This task force will be guided by science and has a mandate to recommend such measures as are required to protect us all. We're engaged with friendly countries and others seeking to bring the vaccine to Belize as soon as reasonably possible. To bounce back better, we must defeat coronavirus. I have appointed the Economic Recovery Advisory Team, which is comprised of a cross-section of the community, to make recommendations to government on restoring economic growth, job creation, and attracting investment. This is in keeping with our Plan Belize commitment to govern in a consultative manner. We have been carefully reviewing the government's financial position. It is fragile and unsustainable. It is clear that to return Belize to a path of sustainability, major changes will be required in 2021. We are preparing a plan which we will shortly share with stakeholders. We intend to consult widely with a view to agreeing on a set of measures required to turn things around. We will bounce back better. Next week, we will present a supplementary budget in the House of Representatives and present revised estimates of revenue and expenditure for the last quarter of this very unusual year. We will not propose any new revenue measures. We will also present bills to the House which initiate our reform agenda. These bills will be tabled and referred to committees to give interested persons an opportunity to consult and offer comments on our proposals. In an effort to stimulate more economic activity and ensure that employees have more disposable income and employers more finances to operate, we consulted with the actuary of the Social Security Board, who has advised that we can defer the dual increase of the ceiling and contribution rate scheduled to begin in January 2021. He went further stating, and I quote, that the dual increase would have a detrimental impact on employment, end of quote. He also stated that an updated actuarial report sent to the Social Security Board several weeks ago states that the impact of COVID-19 on the actuarial situation of the SSB has been less than anticipated. Therefore, as the Prime Minister and Minister responsible for Social Security, along with Cabinet, we decided to postpone the increase in the payments that was due in 2021. Pope John Paul II said, "The future starts today, not tomorrow." This is true. The challenges of the future call us to act today. When tested, Belizeans respond. As a people, we have always faced our challenges secure in the knowledge that we will succeed. It is the indomitable Belizean resolve that girds us, the spirit of our ancestors that energizes us, and our hope and vision for a better life that inspires us to overcome. We know not what the year before us brings. That is the order of nature. But our undying faith in our Creator gives us confidence. The Bible teaches that faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Let us bring in 2021 safely. Let us adhere to the protocols and try to minimize the spread of COVID-19. And to Belizeans everywhere, I offer health, happiness, and God's blessings for 2021. Happy New Year. Feliz Año Nuevo.
He was once the most powerful man in the Lands Department, but tonight former Lands Commissioner Wilbert Vallejos is being investigated after a large sum of cash was found in his home in Pachacan. This afternoon, the police's mobile interdiction team and the BDF raided the homes of Wilbert and his brother Narcisio Vallejos. They weren't at home because Wilbert had taken Narcisio to see the doctor as he recovers from COVID-19. The team didn't find anything in Narcisio's house, but they did find cash in the home where Wilbert Vallejos lives with his mother. Police came upon 69,800 Belize dollars, along with 1,170 US dollars and 10,000 pesos. Police took his mother into custody, and we are told that Wilbert Vallejos rushed back to Corozal to go to the police station, where reports say he is giving a statement. A family member told us that the cash can be explained because Wilbert's mother is a major cane farmer and her son, who works in the U.S. financial sector, sent the foreign currency. Reports say that the police have called in the Financial Intelligence Unit to make an assessment. And while having such a large stash of cash can be viewed as suspicious, it's not a crime. And in these cases, taxes are usually assessed and government takes a chunk. But what's interesting is that the family says after they found the cash and detained the parents, police went back and confiscated Vallejos' computer, while only minors were at the house. We'll keep following the story closely because the view of the Briceño administration is that Vallejos, who served as Lands Commissioner for 10 years, had knowledge of many land deals under the UDP, deals which are now under studied review for irregularity. Vallejos told us, 7 News, on Friday, that he resigned as commissioner after a debilitating bout with COVID-19, and because after 10 years as commissioner, it was time for someone else to do the job. He had worked in the ministry for 22 years. Belize and Guatemala are following the necessary steps to resolve Guatemala's territorial claim once and for all at the International Court of Justice. But the Guatemalan armed forces are once again making news in Belize after they made an illegal incursion into Belizean territory, trying to enforce their laws on Belizeans. Viewers will remember that back in August of 2015, Will Mejia and the Belize Territorial Volunteers demonstrated in real time how the GAF attempts to stop Belizeans from transiting the Sarstone River. Well, reports reaching us is that last week they did something similar with a scientific research team from the Toledo Institute of Development and Environment, TIDE. But instead of the Sarstone, this confrontation happened within the Zapadilla Keys, which is part of Belize's southernmost territory. In a press release today, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs confirmed that they received reliable reports that on the morning of December 31st of 2020, members of the Guatemalan Navy entered Belize's territorial waters. They were aboard a Guat Navy vessel, and at one point, they were more than a kilometer north of the median line between Belize and Guatemala. That makes it Belizean territory. And according to the Foreign Affairs Ministry, these Guat Navy officials approached TIDE's scientific research team, which was conducting environmental studies in the area of the Corona Reef system, which is inside the Zapadilla Keys Marine Reserve. Without lawful authority, Guat Navy personnel requested written Guatemalan authorization from the research team to conduct their activities in the Zapadilla Ranges. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the TIDE team maintained their stance that they were well within Belize's territory and that they were authorized to be there by the government of Belize. This research team concluded their day's work and they returned without further incident. Reports from the South tell us that because of this incident, the team returned a day early from their research dive. The government says that it is conducting a full investigation and review of the matter. A press release from Foreign Affairs says, quote, "The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Trade and Immigration strongly protests the unlawful incursion of Guatemalan naval personnel for violating Belize's sovereignty and territorial integrity and will be raising the matter with its international partners." End quote. But while Guatemalans are making incursions in the south, there's something of a mystery unfolding in the west near the border town of Benque Viejo. A mother is grieving for the teenage son who snuck out of the house only to turn up dead the next morning. Cherise Halsal headed to Benque today to learn more about the sudden death of 14-year-old Shamir Itza.
Benque's Itza family started the new year with tragedy. Their son and grandson, 14-year-old minor Shamir Itza, died suddenly on New Year's Eve under strange and, as yet, unresolved circumstances. Now, this family, struggling to mourn through uncertainty, is crying out for the one thing that could possibly lighten the load of this tragedy.
What I want is for there to be justice. That's what I want. He didn't say anything about stomach pain. He just said he was going to the bathroom. And I waited like 5 minutes for him to go in. And then when we went to look again, he wasn't there. So I knew that this boy had snuck out. He left from here around 10, at 10:30. And he was not drinking.
10 at 10:30. And that meant he was not drinking.
It seems Shamir left to go to a family gathering at a home nearby. A home located at just a stone's throw from the Sakots police station.
The investigation has also shown that Myron Itza may have left his home just about around that time when he said he was going to use the outside latrine and visited the home of Jose Puk, where a number of other persons were present and they were socializing and consuming alcoholic beverages. According to Puk, sometime after 2 a.m. was when he granted Itza's permission to go into his bedroom to sleep.
Shamir's post-curfew outings surprised his family because they say that at 6, he'd been home baking cakes. By 9, he'd taken one of those cakes over to his godfather, who is also a neighbor. And it seems that's when he got a phone call.
The boy received one call the same night, but he never know who was calling on the phone. So he tell his godfather that he will come home. So he come home, and Ima and Ipa, they think that, they believe that they tell him he going to latrine. At the same time, my next son see that he pass the next house, and he take the road up, but without me know, she know. We never know that he going.
Because this was after curfew.
After curfew. So we never believed that he gone, because about 6 o'clock he was baking the cake.
Benjamin Itza says he never got to eat the cake that Shamir baked because before he could get to it, everything had changed. For their part, the cops say that in the case of Shamir Itza, there's more than one thing that's problematic.
Firstly, the curfew is still in effect, so he should not have left his home after or during the curfew time, which he apparently left after 10 p.m. Secondly, he should not have been encouraged at the home of Afpuk, and at 14 years old, he should not have been encouraged to be consuming alcoholic beverage.
Shamir's family says it seems that even before all that, someone had called Shamir out of his house.
Godfather, he know that he get one call, but he don't know who. Tell him, could be one friend, could be something where they mean for. No, we can't. That's why if that's something bad they do, well, we want this thing. No get hide, make they put it in a light because we want justice.
Cherise Halsall, 7 News.
A date for the post-mortem examination has not been scheduled, but police are investigating. So far, a number of items that they believe important to the case have been retrieved from the home where Itza died. Itza's host, Jose Puk, has been detained and interviewed. The cops also told us that whether or not foul play is proven, it is expected that Puk will be charged with at least a minor crime. Another teenager died over the weekend, this time just outside Bella Vista Village. 16-year-old Edwin Marquez was the victim of a road traffic accident around 6:30 on Saturday night. He had just left his family and was on his way home to his girlfriend, but never made it. A father of 2 also died a day after the incident. Courtney Menzies traveled south to hear from the grieving families.
It was here, right outside Bella Vista Village, that 16-year-old Edwin Marquez lost his life on Saturday. The teenager was heading home to Independence Village when his motorcycle collided with a vehicle coming in the opposite direction. Now his family is left to mourn, a brother and son gone far too soon.
I was across over there by my neighbor house, and when I was coming, he was actually he's already going at home. Because he already lived with his girlfriend and stuff. He just came and visited my father, and he actually asked my father if he was going to go to farm tomorrow, and my father told him no. So he told him that if anything they do, make he do for tomorrow for after the farm stuff. So he told him no. So he said bye, daddy, and he went. And when I was coming across, the neighbor hailed me and told me that he had an accident, but actually they already know that he was dead. I told my auntie if we could please go over there, and yes, but the police didn't let us to see him, so we just came home back.
While Angie Marquez recalled the last time she saw her brother, her words failed her when she began speaking about the helpful and loving person he was.
He was a nice boy. He was the right hand of our house. He was a nice boy. He came out of school, so he started to work with Mr. Martinez at bus service of Mr. Martinez, the one that traveled from here, from Bella Vista to Gangrega. Afterwards, he found out work at Mango Creek at Independence with Mr. Omar, my neighbor, and right there where he started to work. So he was traveling from here to Mango Creek.
As she fondly remembered the various nicknames he would call her, her silence proved how palpable her family's grief is. How is your family coping?
Actually, I don't have so much words to say.
Sadly, Marquez was not the only fatality in this incident. The following day, the driver of the vehicle, 47-year-old Juan Velez, succumbed to his injuries while he was being treated at the KHMH. His wife did not have much to say because even though she was inside the vehicle, she could not remember how the collision happened.
She said she didn't remember. When she just see it, she did done that at the hospital. But she never remember nothing what things happens. He used to be a good husband because she said he used to have good workers and he got a lot of friends. A good person. responsible in the food, in the kids and everything. All of the family not feel good now. All of them, they feel it.
The only person who was able to give the details of the accident was ACP Joseph Mivit.
The investigation had shown that Velez, who was returning from a social event in the Stan Creek Valley area, veered into the lane of the oncoming motorcyclist, which caused the collision. Velez, along with his family, was transported for medical attention. He was later transferred to the Carl Hirschner Memorial Hospital, where he died whilst undergoing treatment.
There is speculation in the village that alcohol may have been a factor in this incident, but according to Belez's wife, he was not intoxicated. Courtney Menzies, 7 News.
And before we go to a break, a relative of Wilbert Vallejos tells us that, contrary to what we reported, the former lands commissioner has not given a statement to the police. He is reportedly at a private hospital with his brother. His mother remains detained, and police are asking him to present himself. And we'll take a break now. When we come back, there was also a murder down south this weekend. We'll have that. Don't go away. Plus, a trio of American tourists to court after they were caught on San Pedro without a mask. And Dr. Manza tells us how he cheated death after being taken down by COVID-19. Don't go away.
We offer a complete line of Honda products featuring the most trusted and reliable line of motorcycles in Belize. For outdoor and marine recreation, we have Polaris ATVs and UTVs, Volvo Pentamarine Solutions, Honda Outboards, and Best Sport Kayaks. When it's time to service your vehicle or equipment, you can find the brands you trust at Benquip. We carry a large inventory of Castrol oils, NGK spark plugs, and a full range of cleaning products from Magic. Get power when you need it with trade winds and Honda generators. For those businesses looking for increased productivity and a safe working environment, our proven and respective line of TCM forklifts will not let you down. We also have trimmers and lawnmowers from Honda and Husqvarna, so you can keep your yard and surroundings properly maintained. So visit Benquip today at 3 miles on the Philip Golson Highway to get the equipment, parts, and service you need.
Welcome to the beautiful and quiet town of Popsville, home of agriculture, industry, and family. And in a local coffee shop not too far away, Devin meets up with Keisha to share what he's learned from his persistent organic pollutants workshop. Tell me, Keisha, have you ever heard about POPs?
POPs? What's a POP?
POPs, short for persistent organic pollutants, are a group of carbon-based chemicals that are harmful to our health and to the environment. According to the Stockholm Convention, POPs have been classified as harmful due to their persistence, bioaccumulation, toxicity, and long-range transport. This means that POPs can exist for many years and can seriously affect our health and the environment. That's right, Keisha. So pay attention to these main sources of POPs. To date, there are 16 known pesticides that have been identified as persistent organic pollutants. POPs, pesticides including DDT and lindane, can especially have long-term effects on our health and environment and should be avoided at all costs. Polychlorinated biphenyls are chemicals found in some industrial equipment manufactured before 1985 and were used to reduce the occurrence of fires in electrical equipment. Try avoiding contact with these items. Perfluorooctane sulfonic acids, or PFAS for short, may be found in several common household items that make everyday life easier, so pay attention to the type of items you choose to buy. Brominated flame retardants, PBDEs, and HBCD are man-made chemicals added to a variety of products such as dashboards and foaming seats to make them less flammable. Unintentional persistent organic pollutants are formed due to several chemical processes or improper combustion processes, such as open burning of waste. So you see, Keisha, pops may be found right under our noses.
So what can happen to me if I'm exposed to these pops?
Well, short-term exposure can cause symptoms like headaches, dizziness, and nausea, but staying in contact with these chemicals over prolonged periods and exposure to high concentrations can potentially make you very sick. Special precaution must be taken as pregnant women and developing children are most at risk when exposed to pops. So now you know a little bit more on pops, where they may be found, and how they can affect you. For more information on how to manage and dispose of pops containing products and waste, contact your local waste management agency or visit www.stopthepops.com for more info. Sometimes danger lurks where you least expect it. The more you know, the healthier you can grow.
My name is Alessandra Lamia. I'm a Standard 5 student at New Horizon SDA. My grandmother encouraged me to enter the essay competition. She always says that we have a voice and we should use it. She is my hero. I wrote the essay to show everybody that we have the power to stop the spread of coronavirus. Did you know that we can all be superheroes? Yes. You read that right. We have the power to stop the spread of coronavirus or COVID-19, as it is more commonly known. Remember, as superheroes, we need to constantly use our powerful shield to protect us from harm. We are not just protecting ourselves from the spread of the enemy, but we are showing love, compassion, and care for others. I want to thank BL, not just because I won, but thanking them for their hard work that they put into this competition.
Knowing that she won it makes me very proud of her and her accomplishment. Winning is a very big deal in times like now. And knowing that we are beneficiaries of something like that, we can do a little bit more in preparations for a safe school when it comes to having children in times of COVID-19.
Thursday the 31st.
Compatriotas beliceños, muy pronto, 2020 terminará y daremos la bienvenida a la llegada del 2021. Como nación, miraremos hacia atrás al año pasado con una mezcla de sentimientos y con toda la razón. Fue un año de inundaciones sin precedentes asociadas a los huracanes Nana, Eta y Iota, que causaron más de $100 millones en daños a la economía de Belice. La gente perdió sus propiedades, los agricultores perdieron sus cosechas y sus ganados, y la infraestructura pública quedó gravemente dañada. Por si eso no fuera suficiente, experimentamos una sequía que afectó la producción y los agricultores volvieron a perder. La pandemia del COVID-19 casi paralizó nuestra economía. 233 beliceños perdieron la vida y más de 10,000 dieron positivos. Alrededor de 40,000 personas perdieron sus trabajos y los negocios cerraron como resultado de las medidas impuestas para combatir el virus. El COVID-19 cambió dramáticamente la forma en la que trabajamos, la forma en que vivimos y el mundo que conocemos. Por el año 2020 no fue tan malo. Cientos de beliceños, junto con colaboradores cubanos, se enfrentaron al virus y proporcionaron cuidados y control mientras implementábamos medidas para frenar su propagación. Esos trabajadores de primera línea son nuestros héroes. Debido al bloqueo y otras restricciones, se crearon muchas nuevas micro, pequeñas y medianas empresas. Se dejó ver la creatividad beliceña y un espíritu empresarial hacia entonces oculto. Ahora tenemos más empresas beliceñas. Como resultado del cierre de las fronteras, nos convertimos en turistas en nuestro propio país en número récord. Redescubrimos la exótica belleza de esta nuestra tierra y la cálida hospitalidad de nuestra gente. El 11 de noviembre del 2020, los votantes fueron a las urnas, desafiaron el virus COVID-19 y eligieron un nuevo gobierno del PUP con una mayoría abrumadora. El electorado apoyó las propuestas de nuestro Plan Belice. Recibimos el 59% del voto popular. Sin duda, mi gobierno tiene un fuerte mandato para el cambio. El 2020 fue realmente un año de cambios. Cambio porque Belice necesitaba cambiar lo que era y porque los beliceños quieren un futuro diferente. Cuando asumimos el cargo, encontramos la tesorería vacía. La administración anterior pedía prestado $1 millón por día para cubrir los gastos. Imagínense, tenían que pedir prestado cada mes para pagar la nómina. Esa es la bancarrota pura y simple. En agosto pasado, la administración Barrow no pagó los $13 millones americanos del Superbond cuando se venció. En su lugar, añadieron esta cantidad al capital, aumentando así la deuda externa de Belice y aplazando lo inevitable. Las agencias calificadoras volvieron a bajar la calificación de Belice. Lo importante es que, debido a la mala gestión de la administración Barrow, no pudieron hacer el pago y Belice quedó financieramente avergonzado en el escenario mundial. Como resultado del COVID-19, la administración Barrow prestó millones de dólares en el 2020. La economía de Belice se había contraído antes de que COVID-19 nos afectara. La situación empeoró la segunda, tercera y cuarto trimestre y estimamos que la economía de Belice se reducirá en un 15% en el 2020. El déficit fiscal general se estima ahora en $500 millones o el 12% del Producto Interno Bruto, y nuestra deuda con el PIB aumentará al 133%. El estándar aceptable es el 60%. Mientras que los economistas que analizan y siguen esas estadísticas se alarmarán por estas cifras. Estas cuentan una simple historia para todos. Belice está en quiebra. Creemos que los beliceños tienen derecho a saber por qué las cosas van tan malas. Merecemos saber cómo llegamos a este lamentable estado. Debido a la mala gestión y la corrupción del UDP, se nos pedirá que hagamos grandes sacrificios en el 2021, mientras buscamos enderezar el barco de la nación. Pero antes de que podamos pedir a los beliceños en conciencia que lo hagan, aquellos que nos llevaron a este punto deben rendir cuentas. En los días y semanas venideros, mi gobierno revelará al pueblo de Belice el alcance de los robos, la delincuencia y la corrupción perpetrada por la administración Barrow. Tierras valiosas están ahora en manos de los compinches del UDP, regaladas por una miseria. Contratos valorados en cientos de millones de dólares fueron otorgados a contratistas favoritos que no pagaron millones en impuestos y honorarios. Las empresas estatales compraron propiedades a precios excesivos, dejando a las instituciones cargadas con millones en deudas sin ningún propósito legítimo. Las empresas privadas firmaron contratos en el periodo previo a las elecciones y ahora están exigiendo pagos masivos para que se liberen de los contratos. Se exigió a los funcionarios públicos que utilizarán el equipo y el combustible del gobierno para construir carreteras en la propiedad privada y para limpiar ranchos masivos. El robo y la corrupción fueron generalizadas y sin precedentes. Esto no se puede, no se debe, ni se permitirá que se olvide. Habrá investigaciones y se presentarán cargos criminales justificados. Cuando proceda, se iniciará acciones civiles de recuperación ante los tribunales. No habrá vacas sagradas. Es contra esta miserable realidad que debemos enfrentar el 2021. El año nuevo nos presenta obstáculos casi insuperables. Los desafíos que se avecinan son difíciles. Las opciones que enfrentaremos también son difíciles. Para suprimir la propagación del COVID-19, hemos creado el Grupo Especial del Trabajo COVID-19. Este grupo de trabajo será guiado por la ciencia y tiene el mandato de recomendar las medidas necesarias para protegernos a todos. Estamos comprometidos con países amigos y otros que buscan traer la vacuna a Belice tan pronto como sea razonable posible. Para recuperarnos mejor, debemos derrotar a la Rona. He nombrado al equipo asesor de recuperación económica, que está compuesto por una muestra representativa de la comunidad, para que hagan recomendaciones al gobierno sobre el restablecimiento del crecimiento económico, la creación de empleo y la atracción de inversiones. Esto está en consonancia con nuestro compromiso de Plan Belice de gobernar de manera consultativa. Hemos estado revisando cuidadosamente la posición financiera del gobierno. Es frágil y insostenible. Está claro que para devolver a Belice a un camino de sostenibilidad se requieren grandes cambios en el 2021. Estamos preparando un plan que en breve compartiremos con los interesados. Tenemos la intención de realizar amplias consultas con miras a acordar un conjunto de medidas necesarias para dar un giro a las cosas. Nos vamos a recuperar mucho mejor. La semana que viene vamos a presentar un presupuesto suplementario a la Cámara de Representantes para el último trimestre del año fiscal. Presentaremos estimaciones revisadas de ingresos y gastos para el último trimestre de este año tan inusual. No propondremos ninguna nueva medida de ingresos. También presentaremos proyectos de ley a la Cámara que inicien nuestra agenda de reformas. Estos proyectos de ley serán presentados y remitidos a los comités para dar a las personas interesadas la oportunidad de consultar y ofrecer comentarios sobre nuestras propuestas. En un esfuerzo para estimular más actividad económica y asegurar de que los empleados tengan más ingresos disponibles y los empleadores más finanzas para operar, hemos consultado con el actuario de la Junta de la Seguridad Social, quien nos han aconsejado que podemos aplazar el incremento doble del límite máximo y de la tasa de contribución previsto para comenzar en enero del 2021. Fue más allá al afirmar, y citó, que el incremento doble tendría un impacto perjudicial en empleo. También informó de que un informe actuarial actualizado enviado a la Junta de Seguridad Social hace varias semanas afirma que el impacto del COVID-19 en la situación actuarial de la Junta ha sido menor de lo previsto. Por lo tanto, como primer ministro y ministro responsable de la Seguridad Social, junto con el gabinete y actuando con el asesoramiento actuarial, decidimos posponer la aplicación del último tramo de enmiendas legales, sujeto a una evaluación de las tendencias actuariales en el 2021. El Papa Juan Pablo II dijo, el futuro comienza hoy, no mañana. Esto es cierto. Los desafíos del futuro nos llaman a actuar hoy. Cuando se le pone a prueba, los beliceños responden. Como pueblo, siempre hemos enfrentado nuestros desafíos con la seguridad de que tendremos éxito. Es la indomable resolución beliceña que nos une, el espíritu de nuestros antepasados que nos da energía y nuestra esperanza y visión de una vida mejor, lo que nos inspira a superarlo. No sabemos lo que nos depara el año que tenemos por delante. Es el orden de la naturaleza, pero nuestra fe inquebrantable en nuestro Creador nos da confianza. La Biblia enseña que la fe es la seguridad de las cosas que se esperan, la convicción de las cosas que no se ven. Traigamos el 2021 a salvo. Cumplamos los protocolos y tratemos de minimizar la propagación del COVID-19. A todos y cada uno, de parte de mi familia, les ofrezco salud, felicidad y las bendiciones de Dios para el 2021. ¡Feliz Año Nuevo!
There was a murder in Belize City just as the news was finishing on New Year's Eve. At this time, police believe that it was a result of gang rivalries between George Street and Taylor's Alley. It happened on the turf that borders the two neighboring gangs on Glen Street near its junction with West Street. At around 6:55 p.m., 25-year-old Shane Flowers from Taylor's Alley was walking on West Street along with a woman, 56-year-old Manira Wilson. A gunman appeared and opened fire on both of them. Wilson was shot once to the body and survived, while Flowers wasn't so lucky. Although he managed to dash from West Street to Glen Street, he collapsed from multiple gunshot injuries to the body and passed away. This morning in a police press briefing in Belmopan, the deputy head of the National Criminal Investigations Branch told the press that it appears that Flowers was shot and killed in a gang flare-up.
On Thursday, the 31st day of December 2020, police responded to a shooting incident on Glen Street in Belize City. Upon their arrival, they found the lifeless body of Shane Flowers, and another female was found at the KHMH with gunshot injuries. She was identified as Manira Wilson and was admitted to the KHMH in a stable condition. Investigation revealed that both persons were walking on West Street when a male person came and fired shots towards him, causing the fatal injuries to Flowers and the other injuries to the female. The male person then fled from the scene. Several persons were detained and questioned in regards to this murder.
Sir, the motive behind this shooting?
Okay, it's a rivalry between two groups in that area of Taylor's Alley.
Sir, talk us about Shane Flowers. Who is he? Is he known to the police?
Yes, he is known to the police.
Where is he from?
Taylor's Alley.
But known to the police for what incidents?
He has been investigated for some incidents in the past, that's all I would say.
This weekend, police announced that they arrested and charged a 17-year-old male minor for the murder of Shane Flowers. He was formally charged in the presence of his mother, and he was remanded until today, when he was expected to be formally arraigned in Magistrates Court. Police say that they have activated additional patrols in the area in the hopes of preventing any retaliation. And while that was the last murder for 2020, the first murder for the new year occurred at 10:30 on the night of January 1st, well after curfew. The victim is 26-year-old Kelvin Lindo, a resident of Placencia, who was planning to relocate to Santa Cruz Village. But before he could finish building his home, he was killed in cold blood. Courtney Menzies has this story.
26-year-old Kelvin Lindo was planning to make Santa Cruz his home, but a gunman cut those plans short when he fatally shot Lindo on New Year's Day. The details of the murder are a bit sketchy, since the only possible eyewitness says he didn't see a thing. The incident occurred at the home of 50-year-old Herminio Alvarez, who police say is a suspect in this latest murder.
Mr. Alvarez, along with two other persons, were socializing in his yard when, according to him, Lindo approached, and he then went inside his home where he heard of a struggle, and then after heard what sounded like a gunshot. He is detained at this time pending the investigation, and police are seeking two other persons whom we believe are key to this investigation.
Initial reports suggested that the gunman had been looking for an associate of Lindo and had recently left Alvarez's home. The motive, according to ACP Myvid, is an old drug dispute between the group of men. And while Lindo's family resides in Placencia, where he is originally from, he made many friends in the few years he had been working in Santa Cruz. He even had a son, and the infant's great aunt told us that Lindo took great care of him.
I know him because he me there with my niece, and well, to me he was a good person, and he always there for his son because he has a son, and he didn't really live here in Santa Cruz, but he was building a house here in Santa Cruz, so he come here and work in the house, and every time he has time he comes to his son. And he lived in Placencia.
What was the last time that you guys saw him?
Before Christmas. Before Christmas we saw him. After that we don't see him too much wrong over here. Maybe he was with his family.
Lindo's son is only 4 months old. Courtney Menzies, 7 News.
Orlando is reportedly an associate of well-known man in Santa Cruz village who has had plenty of run-ins with the law. Police refrained from confirming this, however. This weekend, 2 amateur videos recorded on a cell phone were posted on Facebook, and they capture what is basically a mob putting a beat down on a Belize City man. And the principal aggressors in this mob are 2 Belize City women and a group of children. It happened on La Croix Boulevard, and seen here, this man is being chased by the mob. He is then assaulted by women screaming at him in rage. The females then strike him in the face with rocks, and he is then clubbed with a piece of wood. He then falls into a nearby drain, where his aggressors take turns to stone him. His face starts to bleed, and while he is clearly hurt, he also appears to be intoxicated. Later on, some unknown person then hurls an entire bicycle at him, which strikes him in the face. Listening to the audio, it is clear that the young boys are participating in this public beatdown. This morning, the press asked police what they know about this public assault. The deputy head of the National Criminal Investigations Branch told us that neither the victim nor his aggressors want to press charges, which reportedly has a worrisome backstory. Here's how he explained it.
That matter was investigated by the police. We saw the video. That person was detained. Other persons were brought in as a part of the investigation. At the conclusion of the investigation, no charges were levied upon anyone, as the complainants refused to press any charges on anyone.
Sir, but talk to us about this public brawling that we've seen a few instances of in the past few weeks. Is it something that you believe police are condoning?
No, we are not condoning that behavior any at all. That video was taken by someone. Like I said, we intervened and we detained persons, and that matter was investigated.
This morning we approached one of the female attackers and the family of the victim, and they both declined to comment. Kevin Offers, the new CEO of Home Affairs and New Growth Industry, took to Facebook this weekend, and he said, quote, "What is alarming about that video is a level of violence from the children. It is a direct reflection of a failed hope that wrong will be punished, and appropriately so. Again, we have women in another video as the chief responders and vessels of violence." End quote. They are American tourists who gave their profession as writers, and they will sure have something to write home about after they were arrested on New Year's Day. On January 1st, the trio of 52-year-old Jennifer Heckman, along with 54-year-old Jeffrey Heckman and 58-year-old Jeffrey Garcia, were on Sea Grape Drive in San Pedro when police caught the trio without face masks. They were charged for failure to wear a face mask or other face clothing. The trio appeared in Belize City Magistrates Court this morning before Senior Magistrate Aretta Ford. They pleaded guilty and were fined the mandatory $500 for any quarantine offense. They were ordered to pay the fine forthwith or, in default, serve 5 months in prison. By 12 noon, the trio was able to pay their fine and they were free to go. They all gave their profession as writers or writer/construction worker. Police have a debt in custody as a man committed apparent suicide in the Queen Street cell block. The press asked the commissioner to comment on the death of Gregory Bowen, who was a prisoner in police custody at the Queen Street police station. The commissioner says that at this time it appears that Bowen hung himself over the holiday weekend. He added that there will be a formal investigation into this incident.
The police reported that this morning, sometime after 2, they made checks on a prisoner, Gregorio Bowen, who was detained pending charge of wounding. And upon doing so, he was found nude in the cell block, hanging from his pants. So apparently he took off his pants that he was wearing and hung himself on the gate of the cell block. He was removed, taken to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. I have tasked Professional Standard Branch as well as the officer commanding Eastern Division to launch an investigation to see if there was any negligence on the part of the officers who were working at the particular moment. We do have our cell block policies that speaks to the fact that officers must make hourly checks on prisoners, and in situations where the prisoner is under the influence or demonstrates the potential for harming him or herself, then the checks must be made every half an hour. In this case, Mr. Bowen was not drunk, and he was not one who displayed signs of wanting to injure himself or others. And so the checks on him was made hourly. We have checked the diary at the station, and it shows that the officers did make the hourly checks at the cell block, and it would appear that it was after the 2 a.m. check was made that he eventually did what he did. Nonetheless, we're going to see what the investigation reveals at the end, and then we'll brief you all more on it.
The latest COVID numbers released half an hour ago are confirming that 7 new deaths have been recorded. 2 of those happened today, 1 yesterday, and the remaining 4 happened earlier in December and are just now being classified as COVID-related. As of this weekend, Belize has passed the 250 mark with 257 deaths recorded. Additionally, 37 new cases have been identified in tonight's report, where there is a positivity rate of 13.4%. Current active cases number 587. But even though they may be considered recovered, it doesn't mean all is well. Just ask Dr. Marvin Manzanero. He is on the road to recovery, but that road still has lots of twists and turns, even though it has been 4 weeks since he first felt symptoms of COVID-19. He says he still has what he calls yo-yo days. In a Zoom interview 90 minutes ago, he told our news director that some mornings he has a lot of energy, but by the afternoon that energy escapes him like air out of a balloon. It's unpredictable what each day has in store for him, but despite that, he still manages to be a symbol of hope in the pandemic. But for him, that hope had almost dwindled when the moment came that he learned he contracted the virus. Despite the meticulous measures he observed, he began feeling symptoms a week before he was hospitalized. During that week, the fear was always in the back of his mind, and he told us about the moment when that nightmare became real.
I was just feeling fatigued, I think, on Friday. I know I was at that critical stage, days 5 to 10 is when you can start having the symptoms that can put you in a hospital and break you, if you will, if there's such a term. I ate well. I had a watch that kept saying I was tachycardic. The watch usually will, I guess, monitor your basal heart rate and then determine that something is not right.
Right. So it was showing that, for those not familiar with the term, it was showing an irregular heartbeat.
No, it was faster than normal.
Faster, okay.
My basal resting heart rate is usually under 70. When I'm sleeping, it's under 60 even. But I was having 100, 104, 106. So that's not normal for me. And I think it's when something went wrong, really wrong, was I was taking a shower that Friday evening, and I felt I was going to crash. I really felt suddenly very ill. I knew something was very, very wrong. And I came out of the shower, and I, for a moment, was kind of gasping for air. So I knew something was very, very wrong. Came out, I rested, and then, but you don't know if you're having anxiety because you're having all these things with COVID, and I know what's potentially happening. I mean, I'm a clinician. So it went away. I didn't have any problem sleeping. I did not have cough, any of those respiratory distress. I had an oximeter at home. That didn't really decrease. It was still at 94, 95%. The following Saturday morning, I woke up. I was restless, I think, mentally, but physically there was something not right. And I called a colleague in Belize City, Dr. Hidalgo, and he said, you need to get this X-ray done, you need to get lab exams done, and then we take it from there. Colleagues from radiology in Belmopan said, maybe you should come in and get a CAT scan, Dr. Smith, Dr. Diaz, because that's more specific than an X-ray. You might be able to pick up any lesion or anything that you're not seeing in the X-ray. So I went. I didn't think I was going to see anything minor. I was hopeful that it was just been an anxiety attack. So I went for my CAT scan on Saturday morning, around midday actually. After seeing the results of that, then you realize that something is wrong.
What were the results?
There were lesions, there were patches, if you will, of suggesting that there's a viral pneumonia. And these are classic signs and symptoms, if you will, or classic findings in a CAT scan of what COVID does, both in both lungs, on the basis of the lungs, starting to spread to the upper portions of the lungs. So when the radiologist saw that, he said, this is the typical pattern of COVID. I don't know if you have COVID-19, but this is what it is.
And that nightmare only got worse as time went on, and Dr. Manza told us some of his darkest moments.
So what was your darkest moment, Doc?
Seeing the CAT scan is one, because you know what's going on. As fellow clinicians, even though I discussed it briefly with Dr. Hidalgo, that's what like when I had dengue, I don't think people needed to have explained to me what was going on. I mean, I knew what potentially could have happened. Saturday when I got to the hospital, as I was arriving at the hospital, the first note I got is that Dr. Guerra, one of my colleagues from Benque, has just passed away. So it affects you mentally, emotionally, has to. When I was moved to Healthcare Partners, I had a high-grade fever. My blood pressure was up. My glucose level had gone up. I was feeling very, very, very sick on that Saturday. And I was immediately given a whole pile of medications, which I don't know what I was given. And I did not have any more fever. That was the only day I had fever. But Sunday morning when I woke up, I was informed again of the other colleague, the other twin brother, Guerra, had died as well. So you're looking at that. But I think one of the darkest situations or things that make you think as a patient, as a normal person, not being a clinician, is when my son, who is 10 years, asked me on Tuesday, when are you coming home? Those little icons, the sad face one, and I was doing respiratory exercise when he sent that text. And the truth of the matter is you don't have an answer.
I have much more from our 30-minute interview with Dr. Manzanero in tomorrow's newscast, including the scarring that has left him with 70% lung capacity. And we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll tell you how the PUP plan to honor George Price with a holiday. Plus, Compo Chester tells us how the GI3 will be different from the GSU. Don't go away.
Belize is at risk of losing its World Heritage status. Belize is home to 3 of the 4 atolls in the entire Western Hemisphere. Belize's barrier reef, Cay, and atolls are being put at risk by what will be the largest dredging campaign ever conducted in Belize. The concern is the disposal of dredged material, totaling 7 to 10 million cubic meters of unsuitable material, such as silt and other pollutants, for the Port of Belize Cargo and Cruise project proposed by Lord Ashcroft's Waterloo Investment Holdings. The extreme proximity of the deposits to the barrier reef and Cay are shown in the photo provided by local expert Jose Pepe Garcia. As a result, there will be tremendous damage to the coral reefs, and the fishing industry will suffer. Jose Pepe Garcia, local expert and owner of Tunic Na Consultancy, concluded in his report on the Port of Belize expansion project that the disposal plans are ill-considered, environmentally unsound, and careless. These plans are never to make it to environmental clearance. The barrier reef and its atolls are considered World Heritage Sites. The public consultation for the EIA was the most attended public hearing in the history of Belize, with over 2,000 plus commentaries from Belizeans in opposition of the project.
As a marine scientist, based on what has been proposed for dumping at sea in particular, I could never support this project.
My understanding was that the entire NGO community was completely against this based on the dumping of the dredge material outside of the reef.
The reef will remain intact.
That will bring disaster to us in many more ways than one.
We vote out corruption. We vote out nepotism.
We call on you folks to definitely give ear to our concern. We're destroying our own country. We're destroying our own islands.
A letter was sent by the NGO emphasizing their objections to the substantial dredging campaign. No adequate rationale has been provided that justifies that ocean dumping should ever be considered for Belize. The NGO letter is supported by the following organizations: Belize Abudan Society, Oceana, Belize Tourism Industry Association, Clearwater Marine Aquarium, EcoMar, Turneffe Atoll Trust, Turneffe Atoll Sustainability Association, Bonefish Tarpoon Trust, Fragments of Hope, Healthy Reefs for Healthy People, Sea Belize, and the World Wildlife Fund. In support of stopping the destruction of coral reefs, TASA stated the following: "We at TASA, along with the marine conservation community, are dissatisfied with the proposed Port of Belize cruise and cargo expansion project. TASA is against any proposal to dump dredge spoils in our marine waters, near any of our reefs, and especially next to the Turneffe Atoll Marine Reserve."
The vampire Michael Ashcroft and his Belizean minions. That would never happen in a million years.
Dr. Frank Gordon Kirkwood, a retired oilman and independent advisor, a wildlife emergency response volunteer, and a chartered engineer for petroleum, goes on to say, "The complete lack of cruise port strategy for Belize City, which results in false promises of increased employment and economic benefit, way in excess of the growth rates for the cruise industry seen before COVID-19. He further states that the industry is not big enough to support the level of investment indicated by the one cruise port currently under construction at Stake Bank and the Port of Belize proposed development, meaning that there will be too much development, with the consequence that the environment will suffer far more from the superfluous development activity than it would do if the Belize City cruise port development were done in a more strategically justified way."
You've worked hard your whole life building your future, your family, your business, your home. And when you aren't around to safeguard your most beloved assets, you are at ease because you know they are protected by Rfg Insurance. For over 50 years, Rfg has been making sure business owners get back to work after an accident, and families get back into their homes quickly after a natural disaster. At Rfg, it's you who matters most. Visit us today and learn why it pays to get it right. Rfg Insurance, a Rowe Group company.
Season greetings, especially to the members and supporters of the Belize Diabetes Association and to all persons living with diabetes and their families. The year 2020 will go down in history. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought many changes and challenges to our lives and health. Sadly, some of us have lost loved ones. I'm so glad that we have managed to come through this year together. Thanks to our partners, the Ministry of Health and Wellness, PAHO, our donors and sponsors, and all who have supported us during this year. As we start the new year, I ask, how can we make the new year a better one? My wish is for you to give yourself the gift of exercise. Why? Because exercise can improve your overall health, your well-being and quality of life. Being overweight and obese are the biggest risk factors for diabetes. Lack of exercise puts us at risk for diabetes and its complications such as blindness, kidney failure, stroke, and lower limbs amputations. Diabetes is the second leading cause of death in Belize. My second wish is for persons living with diabetes to maintain an A1C level below 7%. For persons not living with diabetes, your A1C level should be below 5.7%. Exercising at least 30 minutes a day, 3 days per week can help in reducing your A1C level and delay or prevent the onset of diabetes. Finally, our diabetes self-care management program is available for persons who need assistance in managing their diabetes. Our branches throughout the country are open for support and any assistance that you might need. Call us for more information. Together, let's manage diabetes one step at a time. Let's exercise for diabetes. Let's maintain our A1C level below 7%. We must do it. We have to do it for our overall health and well-being.
You have a neighbor throwing a party? Do you know of anyone holding a social event? Have you seen people not following protocols set in place to reduce the spread of COVID-19? If so, report them immediately. Use SMART or BTL and call 0800-PARTIES. That's 0800-727-8432. Our COVID-19 hotlines are available 24/7. These violators are putting your health and everyone you love at risk. Call our COVID-19 hotlines and report all violators. This message was brought to you by the Belize Police Department.
Tonight, we note the passing of Belize's first Governor General, Dr. Dame Minita Gordon. She died in Inglewood, California on New Year's Day, 2 days after her 90th birthday. Dame Minita was Governor General from 1981 to 1993 and was a pioneer at the time, becoming the first woman in the Commonwealth to assume the role. Prime Minister John Briceño and the government of Belize have expressed condolences to her family and friends. And her successor, Dr. Colville Young, also expressed his condolences, calling her, quote, a lady of great talent and charm who served her nation with patriotic dedication and wisdom, earning everyone's praise and gratitude, end quote. Dr. Dame Minita was an accomplished scholar with multiple degrees and is noted as Belize's first trained Belizean psychologist. She was also an avid supporter of the Girl Guides and a lifetime member of the Red Cross. She became Governor General at the age of 46 and succeeded James P.I. Hennessy, the last governor of Belize, in becoming the first Governor General of Belize at independence. And while Dame Minita will be honored on Heroes and Benefactors Day, Belize's paramount national hero George Price will now have a holiday in his name. Minister of Home Affairs Karim Musa has signed an SI declaring 2 new holidays for 2021. George Price's birthday, January 15th, and Freedom Day, August 2nd, in lieu of August 1st, 2021, a Sunday. We note that it is being called Freedom Day, but is widely acknowledged as Emancipation Day throughout the Caribbean, while 2 have been added. One holiday, Pan American Day, October 12th, originally Columbus Day, has been excised from the calendar schedule. A motion to designate new holidays will be tabled in the House on Friday. The new holidays added 2 long weekends to 2021, a year with a bumper crop of them, a total of 8. As we showed you in our last segment, the old year and the new year were bookended once again by murders. But overall, major crime was still sharply down in 2020. And while all the curfews have to be a driver of decreasing crime, the Compol maintains that the reduction was as a result of vigilance by the police department and officers and cooperation from the public.
Thanks to the men and women of the Belize Police Department, as well as the wider public that welcomed us into their homes during 2020, and those who participated with the police in ensuring that we had one of our best years ever in almost a decade when it comes to fighting crime across the country. And yes, while we saw significant reduction in major crime across the country when compared to 2019, our figures were not exactly where we wanted it to be, but it still is one that is worth of celebrating. I think for 2019, we had a total of 134 murders recorded countrywide. And for 2020, we have a total of 102, which is a reduction of 32. And so that is a significant reduction for us. And again, it goes to show that the police have been out there in the different communities across the country, actively pursuing criminals, and it has paid off. For 2021, we are currently working on our new or revised national crime fighting strategy, which is going to be released within the next 2 weeks to the public to see exactly what our focus is going to be. And yes, we have to look at the new government's agenda, the Plan Belize agenda, and ensure that our strategy will be in sync with what the government had promised during their campaign. And so I believe that for 2021, we're going to have a good year as well.
So while police's murder count for 2020 says that there were 32 fewer murders than in 2019, the commissioner noted that this year's strategy has to be similar to last year's.
We still have to continue focusing on those 4 pillars. The issue of domestic violence is still a live issue within our society. The issue of gangs still remain very very much prevalent, the alcohol consumption and the liquor establishments, these are things that we still have to focus on. Even though you would agree that for the latter part of the year, we saw less crime resulting from alcohol consumption because of the fact that we had curfews, and that may have limited the sale of alcohol. And we also saw where the bars and so forth have been closed for almost half of the year. So that again reduces the sale of alcohol. And so in that category we saw a significant reduction. We also saw a reduction in the issue of gang violence or gang murders.
And while they aren't considered culprits of major crimes, police did have to arrest and charge 187 people for breaking quarantine regulations over the long weekend. 85 people were charged with breaching the curfew. 54 were charged with failing to wear a face mask or some other face and mouth covering while in public. 30 people were charged with attending a restricted social event. 7 people were charged with cross-district movement. 4 people were charged with failing to properly wear a face mask while in public. 3 people were charged with hosting a restricted social event. 3 people were charged with entering Belize illegally. Finally, 1 person was charged with failing to practice proper social distancing. Last week, we told you how the police commissioner had disbanded the GSU and the anti-gang task force. These efforts of these 2 units will now be consolidated into one new unit called the GI3, or the Gang Intelligence Investigation and Interdiction Unit. This formation of this new unit took effect on New Year's Day, and it will be commanded by Senior Superintendent Lyndon Flowers. Today, the press asked the commissioner about what these changes actually mean for the operation of the unit formerly known as the GSU.
We had the disbandment of 2 units, which is the Gang Suppression Unit and the Anti-Gang Task Force. Subsequent to that, we created 1 unit, which encompasses both of those units, which is the GI3, which stands for Gang Intelligence Investigation and Interdiction Unit. And that unit will be tasked primarily with ensuring that the gangs across the city and even those across the country are investigated from an intelligence standpoint. So within the new unit, we have an intelligence cell, we have an investigative arm, and we have an operational arm. And so the intelligence cell goes out and gather the intelligence on these gangs. The investigative cell investigate the gangs with a view to ensure that we charge gang members for the gang-related offenses under the Crime Control and Criminal Justice Act. And then interdiction, or the operation arm, is out there in the face of the gangs on a daily basis, ensuring that they do not get the opportunity to commit the crime that they may wish to commit. So I want the public to be assured that, because I have seen where people are complaining about why disband the GSU at this time and that while this GSU has been disbanded, there is still a unit out there that is going to be doing the same work that GSU was doing, but from a more professional level and from a more targeted level, to ensure that when we go after these gang members, that they are gang members, and with a view to ensure that we don't only go after them, but we gather intelligence and evidence on them that we can charge and send them to prison.
Sir, is there going to be changes in terms of how these men operate? Because I think that is one of the biggest issues. The fact that people had issues with how GSU would go and break down people's doors and do what they want. So is this outside of just changing the name? Is there going to be changes in the training, the way how they operate, what they do?
Well, like you heard I said just a while ago, they'll be doing what GSU did, but from a more professional standpoint. And indeed, yes, we have to refocus in terms of the attitude of officers who are at this new unit. And that's the reason why every officer who works within the GI3 unit must be properly vetted, meaning that we are going to do our own background check on these officers to ensure that they do not have that propensity of abusing human rights. And once an officer who wishes to go to that unit fails that vetting, then he or she will be disqualified from going there.
Now, the public seems to have accepted that there is the need for a police unit that gets tough on gangs where appropriate. The problem is that the GSU's hard-charging tactics often left the targets of their police raids battered and bruised. The immediate family members of the alleged gang members have bitterly and consistently complained to the media that GSU members would use excessive force and brutality as part of their dominance over the suspected criminals. The commissioner told the press today that there will be a vetting committee that will look into the backgrounds of officers who want to be members of the GI3. Here's how he explained it. And there will also be vetting to get through the list of thousands of Belizeans who have signed up to be part of the next recruit intake for the police department. Today, the commissioner reiterated that only a little over 200 will be accepted to become new constables. He said that he hopes that all the new hopefuls actually want to serve the general public and aren't just in it for the salary.
I am happy to see that a number of young persons are interested in being a member of the Belize Police Department. And you know what I found ironic was that some of the same persons who are applying, a very large number of them are those who criticizes the police on social media daily. So you find that our enemies now want to join us, and that is welcoming. I just want to say to them that I hope that their interest in wanting to be a member of the department is not just for the salary, but rather that they want to really and truly be a part of the department in terms of trying to see how they can help us to develop and change the culture of this department. And I know that it is going to be difficult for us in terms of selecting that small number that we wish to recruit, which is going to be 225. The fact that we have so many people, it gives us a broader pool to select from. And we are going to ensure that we select the best of the best. And let me say that I'm extremely grateful that during the whole application process, the minister have been saying to us, please, Commissioner, we do not want these applicants to have to be getting a recommendation letter from no politician, right? And that was very important because we don't want to recruit people based on political affiliation. We want to recruit people based on their academic qualification and their impeccable background and their willingness to wanting to serve this country in the most professional way that we as a people would want them to.
Earlier we told you about the new holidays. Well, our next story is about the business that never takes a holiday, drug peddling. And the cops managed to make a sizable drug bust on New Year's Eve. It happened during a routine vehicular check of a Hilux pickup truck on the Philip Golson Highway. That's where the cops found almost 10 pounds of weed packed in 4 parcels. The occupants of the vehicle, 35-year-old Akeem Bowen and 32-year-old Kirkland Phillips, were later escorted to the Orange Walk police station. Here's what ACP Maive told us about the bust earlier today.
Also on the 2nd of January, sometime around 7 p.m., whilst police officers were conducting vehicular checkpoint on the Philip Golson Highway, a black Toyota Hilux approached at the time being driven by one Akeem Bowen, 31 years, and he was accompanied by Kirkland Phillips, 32 years. A search conducted by police of the vehicle resulted in the discovery of 4 parcels of suspected marijuana, which when weighed amounted to 4,500 grams. Both persons have since been arrested and charged for possession with intent to supply a controlled drug. And they should be appearing in court today. Well, they are known to police. I'm not going to say as peddlers, but both are known to the police.
In the past weeks, there have been several interdictions for drug-related offences, including a Christmas Eve bust involving 35-year-old police constable Dion Danilo Bellini, made in Corozal. The bust is valued at over $10,000. Another PUP elected official has tested positive for COVID-19. He's Ramon Munchi Cervantes, the Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Trade and Immigration. Shortly before 8 p.m. on New Year's Eve, when our newscast was finishing up, he made a Facebook post saying, quote, "I inform you that this afternoon I took a COVID-19 test and the result is positive. I ask you all to remain calm and not to worry. For with my strong faith in God and your prayers, I shall pull through," end quote. He is the 6th elected PUP representative to test positive for COVID-19 since the general election. And that's all we have for you for tonight. Thanks for watching. With your news, I'm Indra Craig. Remember that you can see a streaming video of this newscast at 7newsbelize.com, brought to you by Digi for the best postpaid plans in the country. Remember now to wash your hands, to wear a mask at all times in public properly, and to keep your social distance. And remember that the curfew starts at 8 p.m. tonight, so please stay inside. Join me back here tomorrow at 6, and until then, have a good night.